Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, coming to you live for this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. Glad to be here. I'm here in my backyard, and what a gorgeous spring day, and one of my favorite spots to be in when I'm here at home and be able to have. We have a wonderful view and a wonderful setting here. You may hear this stream is just maybe 10 feet away from us right here as it rolls down our hills in our backyard, and it's just I hope it doesn't compete with the sound. We'll see how this works. Maybe we'll do some more from back here because it's just a lovely space to be. I'm especially, you can see this beautiful white blossoming cherry tree right behind us. There's a story behind that. It's our favorite tree, by the way. When Nick passed away almost 3 years ago, when we were at the chapel, the funeral director came up and said, "I have a dilemma." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, we have this, somebody sent a tree, and it was delivered to the church, and it's on our porch, and we don't know what to do with it." So I went out and looked, and here's this beautiful tree in a big pot, and I said, "Just leave it by the door. That's a good place for people to see it." And we loaded it up in a truck, and we brought it here and planted it here in our backyard. And each year as it blossoms, this time of year, so many feelings come out. We're so grateful to the Burkwald family from Wisconsin that were thoughtful enough to send this. We had so many people that were over the top, that we're so grateful for, and this is one of them, and for their gesture of love, and we appreciate that very much. Glad to be here for a number of reasons. Yesterday was a very special day. It was my dad's birthday. It was also Easter, and what a great combination. I'm just so grateful for our faith and grateful for our belief system, and so it made that day all the more special. All the more special. Let's follow up on our theme a little bit about being interested and truly being attracted. But I think, how do we set ourselves apart from what's really going on in the world, in our home and in our business? There's so many distractions everywhere we go that listening, the fine art of listening, is becoming something that's lost. And as it becomes lost, what we're doing is we're giving power to robotics. Because the robots will never be able to have the deepest power of listening that we as humans have, that empathetic power to listen and put things into context. They can't replicate that unless we give them the opportunity to do so. As we become so fixated in our things in life, and in our cell phones and everything, we walk around. Every once in a while I just muse, especially at the airport. I'll look around and just see so many heads looking into their cell phones. And are we losing that fine art of listening? And I have to tell you that I think every good business is built upon that great listening. And it begins with extremely good listening, what we call peak listening. You know, years ago, Lori and I several years ago, not many years ago, we had the opportunity that we take advantage of frequently, and that is to go down and listen to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir broadcast. They're right in our backyard. It's such a thrill, and we put ourselves in the path of inspiration and motivation and spirituality. It's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And this particular morning was different. And it was different because we saw monitors all around, and the words of the music was being displayed on the monitors. And it didn't take us too long to realize that this was a convention. A convention was in Salt Lake City for those that are hearing impaired and hearing challenged, because when they went to applaud, before the actual concert began, the broadcast, you could see their hands in the air, and they were shaking their hands like that, which told us that we were in the midst, literally in the midst, of people who could not hear. We felt like, wow, they can't hear this gorgeous broadcast that's being done by the Tabernacle Choir. And we were feeling sorry for them because we could hear. But let me tell you what happened. As the broadcast began and they began to sing, we saw them take their hands and put them on the pews. And they could feel the vibrations. They could see the words. And we could see the smiles and the tears as the choir sang. And then right in front of us, right directly in front of us, was a man that was not looking at the monitors. But he had the same smile. And it was enriched. And he was looking completely the opposite direction, sideways, to the person sitting next to him, who had his hand in her hand, and as the music was played, she was signing into his hand the words of that music. I looked at his face. I saw the smile in his face. I saw him moving, swaying to the music, inspired by it. And I realized in the moment, that that person was a better listener than I was. So I think about the power of listening. Covey talks about 5 different levels of listening. He said the first level is not listening. We all know what that is. The second level is pretending to listen. And I find myself doing that a lot. Now, that's not always bad. If you got a child screaming at your side, or he's just chattering away and there's something more important, sometimes we pretend to listen because it's not that important. But we still have to pretend to listen. But many times we pretend to listen. There's a dialogue going on where we listen beyond somebody because we're waiting for them to stop so that we can begin whatever it is that we want to say in this stage of life that we're constantly playing on. The third level is selective listening, where we are choosing when we should listen and not using. And that, sometimes we use that. If we get a call from somebody that's maybe the telephone, people trying to sell us or upgrade us on a service, we'll selectively listen to what is going on while we carry on other activities. The fourth level is a level that we find ourselves in occasionally, not as much as we should, especially with our listening devices. That whole idea of selective listening, I see it with my teenagers. I don't know if they're listening to me as I'm talking to that, or if they're looking at their iPod or their iPhone. They say they're listening to me, but it certainly is selective listening. Okay, the fourth level, active listening. Now, active listening is something that we all really want to work at, where we're really focused in on what we're listening to. Now, sometimes it's not empathetic listening, but it's active listening, trying to figure out what we can do with somebody, how we can work with somebody, things that we can do. The fifth level is just full-fledged empathetic listening. And this might be when somebody's talking to us about somebody in their family that's sick, or something that's very meaningful, where we can really engage and empathetically listen. And so, in order, if every good business is really centered on great listening, let's give 2 quick examples. Blockbuster, for example. Now, Blockbuster was a terrible listener. They were so arrogant they thought they could continue to charge $4 a day for every day that you were late getting your, returning your video. And because they did not listen, and because of their arrogance, they eventually got, the doors are shut and they're out of it. They had no customer goodwill. Compare that with Tony Hsieh and Zappos. Just in 2012, you had that somebody hacked into their system. And what they chose to do was send a personal letter from Tony out to 24 million. It took several days, telling 24 million of their clients or potential customers. It took them several days just to get it through their servers, to spool it out to them and tell them they should change their password. And a heartfelt message from Tony saying, listen, we've spent years building our reputation. It's unfortunate that the work of one person in a few seconds can have this kind of an impact on you, our customers. We're standing behind you. Change your password. We're going to be supportive. And he opened the doors for them to help. Well, within days, everybody had changed their password. And the goodwill continued because they are a listening company. Are you a great listener? Are you a power listener? Are you a peak listener? I'm going to challenge you this week, and maybe we'll talk about it next week as we come together. But my challenge is this. I'm going to call upon you to do something different. I want you to listen this week. Find yourself listening with the intent to agree. Would you be willing to do that? I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to listen with the intent to agree. I'm interested to see what happens when you do that. Please respond to me at lee@leebrower.com and let me know what you learned from this. And I'm going to be learning from you, and you can be learning from me. But let's meet again next Monday and find out what happens when we listen to agree in all situations. Listen to agree and see what goes. I thank you for spending this time with me in my backyard, and it's a glorious day. Have a glorious week. Make it meaningful. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.